Today, many Sri Lankans are beginning to lose hope. As our country's problems are compounding, one self-inflicted wound on top of another, with no end in sight, it is starting to feel like we have no one to unite us, no one to give voice to our pain, no one to inspire us and show us the way out of the darkness. It is easy, with things being so precarious, to lose hope, but hope is not lost. Sri Lanka has faced many challenges before, and all of us, as a people, have faced hardships like few other countries in history ever have. We have a history that spans thousands of years, and we have seen that our darkest moments are those in which we are divided as a people, turned against each other, and then conquered from within or without. But whenever all Sri Lankans have stood together and spoken with one voice, when they have been led and inspired towards a common goal, we have emerged victorious. Today, virtually all Sri Lankans are united in their belief that this government has not just failed, but been an utter disaster. We all want to bring our country out of this mess. The main reason why we feel there is no hope is because there is no leader in sight who has the vision, intellectual capacity, empathy, courage, and integrity to save our democracy and prevent Sri Lanka from descending into a failed state. This is a feeling that is not new to us. A little over 3 years ago, on October 26, 2018, when an illegal government was formed and the state media and state apparatus was swiftly taken over in what can only be described as a coup, it felt that all hope was lost. The weakness, inaptitude, and divisions within the Yahapalana government were exploited by those who had no respect for democracy, no respect for the sanctity of parliament, and who were determined to hijack and cling to power by hook or by crook. Many thought that the public service would be fearful of them. They felt that any court cases brought against them were doomed to be dismissed. Many felt that with the public purse at their fingertips, they would buy MPs like shares on a stock market to come up with the parliamentary majority. But they were all wrong. Despite virtually the entire state and private media supporting the coup, despite several so-called independent public servants also throwing their constitution to the wind and groveling before their new masters, not everyone blindly bent the knee. From the very beginning, the Speaker, Karu Jayasuriya, stood up and ensured that Parliament would not be hijacked. He made it absolutely clear that the House of Parliament would remain a democratic house. We saw that when someone rises to the occasion, demonstrates leadership, and unites us with a common voice, everything else naturally falls into place. Parliament stood tall, civil society stood tall, the judiciary stood tall, and even the politicians, despite being threatened and offered bribes, most people refused to betray our democracy. On that occasion, we saw who the real enemies of democracy were. And when they were losing, we saw how they behaved. They physically threatened and attacked the Speaker for the entire world to see. They assaulted police officers and parliamentary staff. They laid siege to Parliament. They did not care about democracy. They only cared about clinging on to power at all cost. I remember being horrified when I watched on television as members of Parliament surrounded the Speaker in his chair, threatened him in filth, destroyed his microphone, and demanded that he bow to their whims. I remember watching Karu Jayasuriya, unbowed, undaunted, not budging an inch as they encircled him and screamed at him in filth. I went to Parliament the following day. I still remember it was a Friday, 16th November 2018. Parliament was due to vote on a no-confidence motion to dismiss the illegal government. They knew that the majority of MPs would vote to oust them. So their first resort was violence. They sieged the Speaker's chair to block proceedings from beginning. They made it clear that they would attack anybody who tried to hold a democratic vote in Parliament. It was clear that Parliament could not possibly sit. I remember going to the Speaker's office. When I got there, I saw a calm and collected man in deep thought. When I asked him what he is going to do, he said, "I am going to go in and do what is expected of a speaker." I remember telling him, "So how can you go in when these people are conducting themselves like thugs?" He looked into my eyes and said, "Prashanta, I have to do it. I have to do it for democracy and for the future generations. It is my duty." I asked him whether it's practically possible. And then he smiled, saying, "You watch and see what I do." I went back to the gallery and saw as he fearlessly led a group of Parliament police officers into the Parliament chamber, the Sergeant at Arms clutching the mace by his side. I watched as he conducted the no-confidence motion, even as poor MPs were ceaselessly attacking him, hurling books, furniture, and even chili powder. to try and prevent the vote from taking place. After the vote was concluded and the illegal government was defeated, those who had lost power tried to physically hunt the speaker down and attack him, and he had to be evacuated from parliament. Despite being defeated in parliament, despite being defeated by democracy, they shamelessly and desperately clung to power for another month until the judiciary grounded their coup to a halt. In those 52 days, all Sri Lankans got to see firsthand that these people did not care a damn about democracy. They wanted to rule by fear, by intimidation and violence. They had no vision for the country or empowering the people. They only had visions of empowering themselves. But we also got to see examples of public servants not bowing to pressure. From the police officers and parliament staff who helped defend parliament, to the Chief Justice and other judges of the Supreme Court and Court of Appeal who refused to be cowed down by an illegal government. Like Speaker Karu Jayasuriya, they all put democracy and future generations first, and their personal security and well-being second. They had the moral conviction to do what was right, no matter the price they would have to pay. And together, even though the enemies of democracy had the money, the media, and the police on their side, we all succeeded. It was a victory for all Sri Lankans, of all ages, ethnicities, and religions, who stood together both in and out of parliament. But sadly, these goons never paid for their crimes. Instead, they managed to hoodwink the people less than a year later and return to power through the ballot box. And since coming to power now, it is clear that they have not changed at all since those 52 days in 2018. Now it is clear for anyone to see, just as these people laid waste to parliament in those 52 days, now they have laid waste to the entire country, to our economy, to our social fabric, our justice system, and even the way of life of our farmers. Equality has been replaced by cronyism and nationalism. The rule of law has become the rule of one. Now once again, it is not just the politicians who have failed, but the public officers like the IGP, the Attorney General's Department, who are behaving like the private servants of the government. Even the Speaker of Parliament today acts like a puppet of the government, a far cry from the example set by former Speaker 3 years ago. Just as Karu Jayasuriya emerged to become the icon of democracy during those 52 days in 2018, today we need an icon of democracy once again. We need someone to remind us of who Sri Lankans are and what we can accomplish together. We need someone to unite us, inspire us, and to show us a way out of this mess. Once again, like the 52 days, no one can really defend them or what they are doing. Once again, the only companies, media institutions, and people who are supporting them are those who are getting a direct political and financial benefit from doing so. The truth is that no one can defend this government with a straight face. And no one will unless there is something in it for them. What I learned in 2018 is this: when the country is plunged into darkness and when no one can see a way out, we must not lose hope. In 2018, it was Karu Jayasuriya who lit the candle in the darkness, who pointed us towards the light and led us back down the path to democracy. Karu Jayasuriya emerged from an environment where no one had faith in any other leader to be the icon of democracy. And he played that role with courage and patriotism like I had never experienced. It was a historic moment for Sri Lanka. We had a speaker with a backbone and a Chief Justice with a backbone. Their courage served as an inspiration, uniting Sri Lankans of all ages, all ethnicities, genders, religions, and creeds to stand for democracy. In the same way, I have absolutely no doubt that as this crisis too deepens, and as we begin to feel the chill of darkness engulf us, once again, someone will emerge, will light the candle and guide us out of this mess. Karu Jayasuriya was not the first Sri Lankan leader to rise to the occasion and save his country against the odds. And he certainly will not be the last. And when the right leader emerges, I have no doubt that once again, all Sri Lankans will find their strength. With or without the traditional media, the country will once again stand together. Once again, we will choose democracy over dictatorship before it's too late.